In terms of hybridity, Amazon.com and Tribeca Film Festival have come together to create a digital marketplace for films and videos with limited circulation or unavailable through conventional retail and web outlets. A short film by Sally Potter, for instance, is now downloadable. This is the result of philanthropic organizations, many of whom are in this room, I believe. Called Reframe, it is self-described as a hybrid, neither fully profit-oriented nor fully freeware-oriented. So private-public is another hybridity. And Astrid Klein and Mark Dytham have invented slam poetry for architects. Called Picha Kucha Night, each presenter, architect, or designer is allowed only 20 images for 20 seconds each. 6 minutes, 20 seconds per architect. Picha Kucha is apparently the sound of the word conversation in Japan, and this forum has spread to over 100 cities worldwide. So what we need, perhaps, is a new hybrid field called ethno-economics. Economics that takes people into account as human capital, and agri-economics, which takes the land into account as material capital, and aqua-economics, which considers water as an asset and a resource. Without hybridizing economics, we will probably simply wither away. The closest we have developed is called evolutionary economics, which makes assumptions about process that are not simply based on allocation of resources, but also the changing nature of decision-making, ideas, and language. We have to read the world. There is always, of course, a continuing case for the arts, but never more so than when the need for legacy is collective. The lack of a memorial space for 9/11 victims and families is a horrible and disgraceful tarnish on the surface of the nation. Governments and people can't cooperate enough to think through a suitable ritual space. Here I'm going to show you some places that have interactive sites of memory, history, and life rewarded. In each case, the audience, you, can make the pilgrimage and leave a memento. You are engaged and participating. We saw that in Samina's Oklahoma City monument yesterday, but without this for 9/11, it will forever be a dishonor, I think, on the body politic. So here we see in order 2 images of the Trevi Fountain, 2 images of the Vietnam War Memorial, which brings families together, the Blarney Stone, which is being kissed for good fortune 3 times, and the fans of Elvis at Graceland paying commitment to his memory. In talking about transforming space from one of familiarity to one of the extraordinary is where the role of the artist changes from expressive agent to collaborator in dialogue with audiences, a mediated encounter I'm proposing to call poetic provocations. These are images of Antel Lackner, who does stretching performances in elevators and other urban sites to rebel against the passivity in the mechanical aspects of modern life. In the art world, these are often called relational aesthetics, or more recently, service aesthetics. The main point, though, is that participation is not a byproduct of this art, but instead is the driving force behind the creation of a new, dynamic, open system of art. In short, interactive media installations and performances, sometimes by objects alone, have emerged as a new art form with an emphasis on public spaces as the stage and positioning of meaning in art. This is also, as it were, a shift to common sense and an understanding of the role of reception in meaning. So in the category of best practices, I'm going to just show a bunch, assuming that you've seen the works of the artists who are already at this convention. The first one again, Raphael Lozano Hammer, another version of the light bulb heartbeats with the pulsations of the last 100 people in the room. Each of them being measured singularly, and then the heartbeats move on. In the second, Christian Nold and his group create emotional geographies of cities and areas by biomapping, using a form of measuring galvanic skin responses to plot how the space we inhabit can be visualized emotionally. This produces, by the way, different kinds of hotspots than a Chamber of Commerce might imagine. This is Leo Villarreal. His objective is to create luminous environments within an architectural environment. The buildings speak by lighting up. There's a group called Grey World by Andrew Chauvin in Britain. Bins and benches. His objective is to create a whimsical but practical series of garbage bins and benches in a public space. The objects have the intelligence to sing, move together when it rains, etc. He also has introduced into the stock market in London spheres, which go up and down according to information from the internet, spelling words and designing geometric forms. Here's Hiro Yamagata. His object is to create a luminous environment as an event or an opening for a festival, a biennale, etc. Here's images of Joanna Berzowska, whose objective is to create fashion garments for athletes and others which respond reactively to the time and motion and patterns of their movement, dresses which respond to the models or the environment's changes in temperature. Or Thomas Saraceno, who creates aerial bubble architecture for airborne cities that can separate and come together like clouds or nomadic tribes. Or the Movement, who organize runs through art institutions. Running with art, mobilizing crowds of hundreds, and returning museums to their secular rather than their sacred status. Others are less participatory, but have history at their core. It's another form of hybridity, I think. Artists are doing the work of historians, and often more memorably due to their emotional overtones. Anne Bogart's City Theater Group are examining the last 50 years of American life through the lens of Norman Rockwell's paintings. It's a kind of meta-art meditation through the lens of performance and images, and it's not unlike the formidable work they did around the much-missed Robert Rauschenberg a few years ago. And the brilliant Bill T. Jones created the hybrid dance work Fela, a tribute to the life of Fela I can never do this name properly, but Fela Kuti, a musician and political activist who fought government corruption in Nigeria. Within music and dance, we offer both a specific and courageous history of human rights activism and the creation of Farrakhan Afrobeat music. This is postmodern dance as history, and then Bill T. is going to do Abraham Lincoln.